Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Latina Connection. I am here today from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and we will have Giovanna joining us in just a minute. She's wrapping up another conference, another panel that she's on. But today we're talking about the theme for today is Hi, Giovanna.
Hi.
I was just making introductions. Today our theme is I Am Woman, and it's all about Latina leaderships in Latina leadership and tech, and bringing our Sazon. And so we're excited to be back with you. We got so much of a response last time and so much good feedback, and there was a lot of community sharing. We decided not to wait too long, but we wanted to come back to you in smaller increments and have a conversation, continue the conversation around AI and what it means to our community. So Giovanna is back, and like I said, she just got off a panel where she was talking about AI, and that was fun to listen to, and we'll dive into that a little more. If you're listening, drop in the comments, let us know where you're listening in from. Always love to see where you are in the United States or even international. And just again, just for introduction's sake, my name is Ruby Garcia. I'm a leadership coach and hypnotherapist. I'm also a lifelong learner and currently a student at UNC Chapel Hill, where I am in their Mighty program, which is basically ed tech and the intersection of education, technology, and entrepreneurship. And so that's where some of my passion is stemming from. I was at a conference last year. It was the Unidos US conference. I heard a Google panelist talk about, if Latinos didn't get on board, that this was going to be Digital Divide 2.0. And it kind of scared me. And I was like, I don't want to get left behind, and I don't want my community to get left behind. And so that's what has set me down on this path. And Giovanna, I'll hand it over to you and let you give your little intro also.
Yes, Ruby, I'm so excited again to be here. We didn't realize how much of an impact and how much folks showed up for us at our last session. So it's going to be something that Ruby and I are working on doing monthly. So there's the surprise there. It's going to be monthly content. Ruby is a multifaceted human being, as well as all of us are. And so just to give you a little background on me, I started my entrepreneurship journey a few years ago, but within AI specifically, less than a year. And it's one of those technologies that's so fast paced that you can jump ship now and have not and not miss a lot, because it's consistently changing, if not any more daily, hourly for sure. So I go into small businesses and teach folks how to leverage AI to scale their businesses, as well go into universities and high schools and teach faculty and staff how to leverage AI to scale their profession, how to create self-care routines, as well as use AI as a personal assistant to help with those mundane everyday tasks that we have to put esfuerzo in, but we don't really want to.
Yeah, and it's Women's History Month, so we thought we would talk a lot about. We would also talk about how women, what women are doing in this space. And yes. I wanted to start off actually the conversation because I think this is so important, is to know that we're really not yet in the conversation, right? And this is why it's so important for us to, I think, expand the visibility of what's possible here and what it means. So I have a couple things that I wanted to share that I had kind of dug out prior. Well, and actually I got really fortunate, so I can't actually take credit for it. So there's two things that I want to share to start the conversations. One is that Tarja Stevens, who is the co-founder of MIA, which is the Mission Impact Academy, and they have a mission to upskill women, in particular in AI skills, and create new economic opportunities for 1 million women by 2030. And this morning she put out a report. It's called the Cisco AI, or she shared a report. It was the Cisco AI Readiness Index report. And this is basically shedding light on the state of like how ready are we for AI within organizations. And in this study, the researchers surveyed over 8,000 senior business leaders And here are some statistics that were shared. 97% say there's an urgency to deploy AI within their organizations over the next 6 months.
Wow.
Over the next
Less than a year. Yeah, that's major.
And this is just came out. In fact, she just posted it today. I haven't even had a chance to dive into it. 84% anticipate that it's going to impact their business operations. And here's where the surprising gap is. Well, maybe surprising, maybe not. Is only 14% of these feel they're prepared to leverage AI. So there's a huge, gap or opportunity, or maybe a little both, depending on how you see it, between this urgency to, really utilize AI and leverage it to its full potential, and then, feeling equipped or like they're actually able to. So there's definitely a gap there. And I think what both you and I, Joanna, want is really for our community to also be in the conversation, be gaining these skills, because there are major implications if we're not involved. And I don't know if you want to talk to that at all.
Yeah, just alone. So those are statistics, and that's kind of what I do, right? I go into small businesses, I show them how to leverage AI so they don't have to do the mundane tasks, so they can start using their brain in other type of ways, whether that's generate more business, start being able to hire more folks to help them in things that actually matter, which is, as a small business owner, always scaling your business instead of doing those like everyday tasks that you can either create a chatbot for or use AI as your virtual assistant. And so the demand is so high now. As you know, I'm creating these courses that I'm, hopefully launching mid-April. That was the plan, but, tell the world your plan and world will come back and be like, joke's on you. And that's kind of what happened. Right. Me and my family are kind of going through a situation. Everyone's fine. Everything's okay. But long story short, my dad had to get emergency surgery. And so now what is my entrepreneurial life looking at as? It's had to be adjusted because of the fact that I am the one who is able to work from home. So now I'm being entrepreneur / caregiver / workshop facilitator. And so it's been really interesting to see how not only has my work shifted, but how my mind shift has also had to shift. And being able to take a step back and being like, girl, this is why you're making this, or this is why you're showing people this, because you're able to take the time to make sure that your dad recoups the way he needs to make sure he comes out of this so much better, because you were able to delegate tasks to artificial intelligence and not have to worry about sending certain emails or making sure certain things were done on time. That's one. Also, transparency. I think with your clients, if you let them know what's going on, they'll be more than understanding. And for me, the reason why I know that my clients are understanding is because they see me on LinkedIn, they see me on social media, they know the way I show up, they know mental health takes a big it's very impactful for me. It's very important for me. So being able to tell them, like, listen, this was the deadline, we may have to move it. I don't get pushback, or I don't get, drama or feedback, because of the fact that I'm able to vocalize where I'm at, where I will follow through, but where I just need some space for grace and being able to be a human being first. And even with the AI panels that I do, it's let's leverage this technology so we can come back to our human selves. I always talk about like actually taking that walk or going on that hike. Right now, for me, what being a human being looks like is being able to be there for my dad, taking care of him, stepping in for the family, and having the privilege to be able to do that, because some of the family members within my little community aren't able to do that. They have to be at their 9 to 5 physically, because that's just what their job is. Whereas in turn, I have the privilege to be able to take him to doctor's appointments, take him to follow-ups, etc.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship. There are sometimes the ups and downs, the pros and the cons, but this is where you can really you dictate your schedule. You don't have to request time off and see if they give it to you or not, or it's just about, how can you best uh, adapt to the situation that you're in. And to your point, like how can you use AI to do that too? And you mentioned, you know, using it for emails and some of the things that can processes that can be automated in order to save yourself time.
Yeah, and just leveraging what the capabilities are, right? Like it's able to read Word documents for you, summarize them, and then throw them in an email. Great. So now I've been able to do something that probably would have taken me, what, an hour and a half. Just to go through documents alone takes you forever. But the fact that I'm able to leverage that and do it within less than 10 minutes, I mean, now I get to, right? Like now I get to put importance where importance actually needs to be instead of in the back of my head being like, ay, todavía me falta esto, right? Like going back to the to-do
Absolutely.
list, like the to-do list has gotten so much shorter because of how I've been able to leverage this technology by knowing and learning how to use it to the most of its capabilities.
Yeah, such a good point. And I do want to mention too, by the way, I mentioned MIA, which is the Mission Impact Academy. They are having a global summit April 18th and 19th, and it's actually
Ooh,
really reasonable. It's 2 days. The VIP price of the ticket, I think, is $45 right now, $45 for early bird. And
wow. Where is
I
it
was,
at?
it's virtual. And I was just on one of their like half day summits last week, and that was a free one, and it was great. Like I actually ended up getting a lot of notes, and I couldn't stay for the whole thing, but I have the recorded sessions. So I'm definitely going to that global summit on April 18th and 19th. So you can check that out on their website, which I'll drop in a minute. I'll pull that up. But I did want to let you know that because I do believe that part of it is sharing the resources, right? Like sharing the resources so that we can all leverage it, and we can all get on board
Yeah.
with that. Um, I also wanted to share. I thought this is really interesting. I was also looking at like you know and you may have some additional statistics to look at, but as we're thinking about women and women's role in AI, one, I don't know if everyone has heard about that, but the New York Times at the end of last year had come out with a who's who in AI uh, article. And lo and behold, it was 12 men that were listed. There was no representation whatsoever. And these men were really being recognized for the like AI movement. And so there was a new article published by women in tech, and I'm not sure if this was today. I got it today. Another fellow Latina in tech, Stacy White Knight, had shared it, and it was 12 top women in AI. And so it was good to see that women, but I gotta say something. I was a little disappointed because there's no Latinas. No Latinas are being
Mm,
represented. So, I'm not sure what that's about, whether we're not getting the recognition, whether or not whether there's too many barriers in the way. Could be many things. But, women, regardless of background, all women are impacted by this. Of course, we always see that, women of color are disproportionately impacted. But just to give you an idea, women make up 20% of AI professionals,
mhm,
and they only make 66 cents for every dollar that the counterparts make.
mhm,
Obviously, when you take in, yesterday was equal pay day. So when you
mhm.
take in other factors, uh, like ethnicity, like if you're a single mom, like if you're an immigrant, like if there's any other intersectionality, um, person with disability, anything like that, those numbers obviously drop, right? So
Right.
that's just the average with 60 cents of the dollar when it comes to AI. At the top AI conferences, only 18% of authors were women.
Mhm.
And then Latinas in particular only represent 3.4% of AI researchers at major or tech companies. So all this is like we are very little. We're barely being represented here.
Mhm.
Right? And that can have a huge detriment in not only the building of the building, but the outcomes of generative AI. And I was even listening to in the MIA conference last week, they were talking about applicant tracking systems. And I can't remember her name, but it was a senior leader from Toast. It might have actually been even the founder of Toast. But she was talking about how even AI can detect the gender of a resume based on the words being used. And I thought, how interesting is that? So they've actually gone in and in their, I guess, tracking system, I'm not quite sure how things work on the back end of that, but they've gone in to kind of remove some of those biases, taking out things like dates and really focusing on years of experience as opposed to like when you work through, taking out things like zip codes that might have to do with socioeconomic status. So they're doing some, I would say progressive work in that area. But there's definitely, there are definitely strong, there are definitely a lot of barriers that we're facing.
Yeah, those numbers are really scary. I actually heard there was a statistic, and so now I want to compare our data because I'm very data.
Yeah.
But I had heard that less than 1% of Latinas take up the AI space or are within the AI field. Less than 1%. Mind-boggling. But it is all of the barriers that are put on us, or also in the last panel, one of the questions was, what kind of mentorship did you get for your career path? And quite honestly, I've gotten much mentorship when it comes to entrepreneurship, but when it comes to tech and AI specific, I have received none. And so,
I'm curious, Giovanna, tell us why that is. Is it that you can't find someone? Is it there's no one there? Like, what are some of the barriers that you're finding? And by the way, if you're listening, I would say this is a call to action. Like, let's help for each other and for Giovanna. Let's find Giovanna a mentor. So if you know someone, but tell us a little bit why you think those barriers have existed.
Yeah, so prime example, I had applied for a mentorship program within the tech industry specifically, and I got denied. And when I got denied, I was told there were 3 times more women that applied for mentorship than there was actually mentors. And so it goes to indicate that we are ready to be in these spaces. We want to be in these spaces, not only of tech, but leadership roles. We are here. We are wanting to get prepared to be the most ready that we can be once we do take on director roles, leadership roles. However, there's not enough of us in those spaces now to mentor the ones who do want to be there. And so that alone shows you where the gap lies. It's great that there's so many of us that are ready, willing, and able, but it's scary to see that there's not enough of us that are capable, that there's not supply versus demand is basically where we are at. And so maybe, and I don't know, I'm here for the open opinions. I wonder if maybe we are focusing too much on the type of mentors that we get as far as titles, as far as compensation, as far as where they have worked, right? If they've worked in Fortune 500 companies, or do we start reaching out to folks like Ruby, like myself, who are in entrepreneurship trenches and who are learning as we go, but I know I can teach so much to someone who is ready or curious about starting a path.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was actually thinking about that earlier because I was like, I'm by no means an expert, right? Like I'm just in my first semester of school. I've been playing with some of the different LLMs, ChatGPT, Claude. There's one called Google Notebook or Notebook LM. And I've, learned by playing with them. I've started a class on prompt engineering, but I haven't, even completed that yet. And so I was thinking about not experts, but really, I would say we're like practitioners, right? Mm-hmm. We're learning as we go, but there's still a lot that we can share with others in their journey. And I'm very curious for those of you that are listening. Even I was, and I'm going to preface this by saying this is very selfish reasons. Is that I have to create a course in grad school. Actually, I'm going to have to create multiple courses, but I have a course that I'm going to have to finish this semester. And I was actually going to make it up about like something around like navigating, the workspace as a first gen Latino professional. But I actually think I would like to combine some of my own work with leadership development and AI. So I'm very curious from those that are listening, like what needs do you have, or what specific areas of generative AI are you most interested in that's going to be relevant to your work and life? What are some of the challenges that you want addressed? I would definitely be interested in hearing. And I know Giovanna is already working on a couple courses, she mentioned, that will be coming out a little later. Was planning mid-April. Was right now with everything going on with your dad's health and stuff like that, might be a little later. But she's got some things that she's already working on, and so I want to be able to complement those. So if you have ideas, definitely drop them in, because listen, I got to create a course for school no matter what. So I'm like, why don't I make it something that's going to be relevant to my community? So whether it's like, how do I use it, how do I leverage an LLM to, help me create my personal brand or to develop my leadership skills, let me know, because I definitely be interested in hearing from you. So go ahead.
Oh, and what I was going to say was me and Ruby are only talking about large language models because that's where most of our emphasis is on. But within AI, there's just so many channels. I went to Google, one of the Google headquarters spaces last week, and they had a panel on how they are using AI for cybersecurity. Cybersecurity alone is a whole different ballgame, and it's a different ballpark. And I want to tap into that industry. But again, I only have so many hours in a day that I can I'm like, yes, that is in the trajectory, maybe not this year, maybe later on down the road. But like, just to say that alone, a statistic that I found, I was reading a newsletter today, and they were saying that cyber attacks ever since AI and these LLMs have been out to the public, there haven't been enough safeguards or safe rails put on them. We know that. We see it within the biases and prejudices of the outputs that are given to us. But there haven't been enough guardrails as far as like the damage that can be done. So very scary folks are talking to these LLMs on how to create bombs or detrimental type of weapons, if you will. And so the cyber attacks and the cybersecurity space has already seen a 125% increase within the cyber attacks alone ever since AI has been to the public. Meaning what? Google had stated that there are 800,000 cybersecurity positions that are just open. They haven't been taken, and they're still looking for candidates to hire. And so I want to say that because when me and Ruby talk, it's mainly LLM based large language models. But I want you to realize that there's just so much more, and cybersecurity might be one of those spaces. I want to tap into that space. I mean, 125% increase in cyber attacks alone that we don't hear about, and 800,000 jobs that need to be fulfilled alone and that's just within the United States. We haven't talked about internationally. There's a gap. Again, we're talking about gaps. There's a gap there, and it needs to be met. And so if you are thinking about taking an AI venture, I'm at the library, by the way, so that's why the lights always shut off. But if you are thinking about going into the space, like, don't just think about necessarily prompt engineering. Start talking to other folks, start talking to folks that are in cybersecurity, start talking to folks that are within the government. I was reading this article this morning talking about how they want to give LLMs First Amendment rights.
Wow.
I want us to think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Because whether they do or not, it's scary either way. It's intimidating either way. And so maybe thinking about AI within the government spaces, within cybersecurity spaces, within LLM
I
spaces.
mean, it's going to be, it really is already in all the spaces. I was talking to
Yeah.
recently an accountant, and he was saying like, oh, now we're starting to use AI. He said, I'm glad I'm retiring soon because, I'm not sure that I want to learn it. But yeah, I mean, it is really infiltrating all these spaces. I just want to highlight a couple of these comments here.
Yes.
John says, AI has leveled the playing field for many of us. If used properly, many AI platforms can be resourceful tools for the advancement of many of our underserved or underrepresented communities. I have used Clause to help me articulate ideas that otherwise I could not put together, and have also used it to learn new subjects. Absolutely.
Awesome, John. I mean, I have gotten a raise by throwing what I wanted the email to say through Claude. It made it sound a little more professional. I sent it and I got the raise. So kudos to you, John, for doing the same thing. I as well have done the same thing.
Yeah. Joel says, "Hey everyone, tuning in from Milwaukee. I'm so glad that you brought up expanding the mentor pool beyond global companies. I feel opening the pool can bring to life opportunities to both parties too." And even, definitely, and I think even with that I sometimes think as Latinos, we want to find other Latino mentors, and knowing that there's so few of us already in tech, and then even smaller within the AI space, we have to be open. We really do need, allyship, and we need to find mentors that we can learn from, whether or not they're Latino,
Yeah.
doesn't matter, but, that will be a mutually beneficial relationship. John says the addition of memory to the chat box has really changed the game for me. It remembers who I am and what I do.
Yeah.
And the more
Love
you
it, love
engage
it,
with
John.
it.
It sounds like John can at this point be a mentor for someone who's barely starting, who is a
Yes,
beginner. And that's what I'm
absolutely.
saying. I think sometimes we focus too much on titles and where you worked and how much you earn instead of being like, okay, it sounds like you kind of know what you're doing more than I do. So can you just teach me the basics? Can you just teach me as far as you know? And so that within itself alone goes a long way.
Yeah, and Marisol, it looks like you might be another mentor because you're working for a major AI project, and only 2 Latinas on a team of 72.
Kudos to you, Marisol.
Yeah,
Kudos to
definitely.
you.
Hey, and I love this. John is already saying, I'd love to be a mentor.
Here
So
we go.
let's make it happen.
Folks, it sounds like if you need help, John's here for you. So make sure to link up with him, follow him on LinkedIn. Let me see. And following him and just DMing him. I mean, he's here for you, so make sure to reach out.
Yep, and I'm gonna throw his name up there again. John, you said it, so don't be surprised if you start getting all those DMs. And Joel Joel says having leadership guidance from an entrepreneur is just as valuable as learning from a powerhouse thought leader from a global company. For me, I got to learn how to adapt from an entrepreneurial mentor, and that strength to adapt allows us to better articulate our thought processes a lot easier. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you really can learn from anyone. I was I had reached out to someone, and I think I shared this the last time, like, being in grad school, I have very heavy reading materials, a lot of academic journals. And if I didn't realize this was the thing, but apparently the educational academic journals, it's almost like the educators want to sound smart, and so they make it really complex.
Yeah.
And some of these journals are long, they're like 40 to 80 pages. I'm like, I don't have time to read this in a week. Like, I got 2 kids, I work, I'm like doing all these things. And I mean, it was someone else that showed me how to leverage AI to help me break down. Like, I could actually upload these PDFs and have it break down some of the most important items, and that's been a huge time saver. Definitely, I'm reviewing it. I'm not just taking it for what it is, but it when it's dealing with really complex information, it's really helped to make it a little more digestible.
And shout out to Joel. Thank you for all that. And that's funny because in one of the panel discussions that I gave, some of the characteristics that we had I think it was like share the characteristics that have made you or that have brought you where you are today. And I said adaptability is definitely one of them. I mean, resilience, collaboration, networking are a few more, but as an entrepreneur, especially within tech, and right now, especially within AI, you have to be adaptable. Everything's changing hourly. everything's changing daily. Nothing stays the same. I mean, how many times have we seen these LLMs change names alone? There's always a new feature that's being added in. There's a new plugin that's being collaborated with, whether it's Claude, whether it's Copilot, etc. And so being able to adapt and not taking it personally if you're not catching up, it's okay. You don't really have to, like, if you miss a day with newsletters, it's fine because it's going to change tomorrow anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
That's,
literally,
that's
our last session, we talked about this. Like the last time we got together, we were talking about Bard.
Yes.
And the next day, Bard was Gemini.
Yes. Yes. And like, I had to go into my deck and change the Bard logo to Gemini because I know how to use Gemini. But it's just things like that. Like, don't be pressed on having to know it all or knowing all the ins and outs, because trust me, if you miss 2 days, it's going to be fine. It's going to change regardless.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there is so much information. It is changing fast. I think that's part of the challenge, is like being able to keep up. However, I will say, to your point about like the adaptability and the resilience, I just want to point out that as for many of us as first gen Latinos, Latinx, however you identify, like those are actually cultural strengths that we already have and we can really leverage. And this, is that adaptability, is that resilience, is being resourceful. Those are all things that, is the light going off again?
I'll be doing that, I think, every 10 minutes. So it's all good.
Those are definitely all things that we can leverage as we're navigating this new space, right? And I just want to encourage people to, explore some different areas of AI. I think personally, like, you've heard Giovanna and I say LLMs are kind of a great start, I think, because they're pretty user-friendly. And so I think that's a great place to start, but there's so many different areas within AI. And I hope that as we, are diving into this work more and more, that we can share many more of these opportunities. Let's see. Dolores says, my daughter is looking for a job and has been a librarian for many years. She is interested in AI and has a master's of information studies and thinks that she won't be able to be considered. I think this is why Latinos are not entering the AI space. I mean, I think part of that is just the framing of it too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you had mentioned, right, as first generation, we are resilient, we are adaptable. That's just how we've had to be within our household alone. So we're bringing those skills into this tech AI realm. The frame, to me, it just sounds like, what are the transferable skills that your daughter can
absolutely,
that transfer over into the tech world? Because tech can be taught. Some transferable skills, they're just innate with you, or you have to work on them, right? Collaboration is one of them. Being resilient is another one. Being adaptable is another one. Being able to work in a team, being able to step up as a leader. And what does leadership look like nowadays? It's not me yelling instructions to you. It's, let's take a step back, let's listen to what the group has to say, and let's come to a consensus, right? Like, that's great leadership. It sounds like those are transferable skills that can go from having a job for X amount of years to getting into the tech space.
Yeah. And I would definitely say, like, I would encourage her just to look into some even the online courses that are available to, because the thing is like, even with the LMs, like, and was this you who mentioned this, or I can't remember if I was another one, but even like TJ Maxx was asking employees whether they had experience using like ChatGPT and other LLMs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. I can't remember where, but like, that's, I mean, it is invading every space, right? And Paulina, a course on Latino Hispanic ERG groups for corporate companies, schools, and how to provide mentorship programs for members. By the way, Giovanna is working on something, has some of this already developed, not even is working on, she has some of this developed. So Paulina, I would really encourage you to reach out to Giovanna, because she's going in and working with ERGs to help them develop in this area.
Yes, I'm going into a tech, out of all places, a tech company next week to show them how to leverage AI to scale their ERGs. So it will be interesting. And yeah, I'm going to end up making a course on it. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. And I love what John says here, because this is so important. This is what we've talked about, is AI is not all automated. It requires a human input to work properly, right? And so we're talking about the intersectionality between humanity and technology. This is such a great point, John. I know this is a shorter one, so we're not going a full hour today, but we're going to be back in 2 weeks. So we would love to hear from you in terms of like, what do you want to know about, AI, what topics are you interested in? How do you want to leverage this in your own career or your own life? Give us some feedback so we know exactly what we can, bring you that's going to support you in your learning.
Also to support Ruby in her course that she has to design.
Course that I have to do.
I saw this
I have homework. I need some help with my homework, people.
Listen, I saw this Instagram. What was it? It was like a little Instagram post, and it said, like for entrepreneurs, and it said, "Do not feel bad or ashamed of promoting yourself." Fashion Nova just texted me 37 times, and I'm like, you know what? Why aren't we doing this more? Because first of all, how dare Fashion Nova like take up all my text messages? But it's true, right? Like why? Like there is no shame in plugging yourself in because no one is going to plug you the way you plug you. So it's time to come in, and it's time for us to step up as a community, Ruby, and show up for you because this course is going to end up being for us. So if anything, it's us helping you to help us again. And this is the beautiful thing about collaboration. And this is how we grow.
Exactly. I love it. Thank you for that. I was going to say as a side note before we close, and then if you have any closing comments, I'll let you add those too. And then we have an announcement too. But so sometimes I sub at my son's bilingual school, and I was actually subbing this morning, and I had to read first and second graders a book, and then we like had worksheets or whatever. And but I thought it was really interesting, and because it was a book about Mary Anning. And for those of you who don't know who Mary Anning is, she is the woman who discovered the first dinosaur bone before the word dinosaur even existed. And so she was born in 1799, and she wasn't allowed to go to school, and she wasn't allowed to like teach or take classes, but she became the expert because her curiosity led her, and she was really passionate about it. And she, found other fossils, and she was the first person to be able to put all of these together. But what I think is so interesting is that she was, mind you, I said she was born in 1799. She was not recognized into the like Britain's National Society of Geology until 2010.
Oh my God.
Yes. Just like 14 years ago. And other people, there were, men that were getting acknowledged for their work around dinosaurs that could take classes, but they were still coming to her anyways. And granted, this is, a children's book that I was reading, but I was just really fascinated about this because I could just, what it made me think about is the parallels, right? And so, there are a lot of resources. We have to leverage each other. We have to leverage allies. But I don't want that to be us is my point. I don't want that to be us. I want us to be in the conversation, which is why we're here today, which is why we're planning on having more of these conversations, which is why we're looking for your feedback. Would love to have some of you that are in this space, even on as guests, in the future, bringing your expertise and sharing, because again, we're kind of on this journey, just sharing vulnerably as we're in the middle of it. But with that, I'll let you say some closing comments, and then we can share our upcoming announcement.
Yeah, I also think that you bring a very valid point, right? Like John is here to be a mentor. How much is he going to be able to show us and teach us with what he sees when he takes on this role? How much more, once we are able to get more folks on this stage, how much more diversity are we going to see? How much more different points of view are we going to be able to see, and how much are we all going to be able to grow as a collective? So I'm excited for it. I'm here for it. I just shared in the link the waitlist for my prompt engineering courses, as well as beginner's guide to AI. I really plan on having those out by mid-April, but as I just shared, Dad's kind of going through some stuff. So hopefully, if it doesn't happen mid-April, it will happen in May. But yeah, shared that link, and I will be, for all of my New York community, if you are in New York, I will be in New York April 4th through April 8th. So if you are in New York, I would love to meet you in person. Emily Jimenez and I are working on trying to get an event together in true entrepreneurship HIPAA form. But we will give more details on that as well. And I'll post it on LinkedIn. But if you can't make it to our event, please let me know if you are in New York, and I would love to meet you IRL in real life. And then having said that, there is another event.
Wait, yeah. Your LinkedIn drop in there. Make sure to.
Oh, yeah. Let me drop that in.
I don't know if you actually clicked it or not, because I want to make sure that everyone gets that.
Okay, I did the prompt engineering waitlist, but let me do my LinkedIn as well.
Prompt engineering didn't show up. Or do y'all?
Oh, it didn't?
No.
Oh man. Okay. Let me if not, I can always throw it in the comments.
Okay, we'll throw it in the comments
here, yeah.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
John, I like this. By the way, John, I really like this Las Madrinas LinkedIn.
Oh, maybe that should be the name. I love that.
So go ahead and share.
That might be the name, John, and then we might have you as a guest once that name becomes official. I love it. I'm here for it. See, ideas. This is what it's all about.
Oh, so you're gonna say as you drop those in. So a couple of announcements. So again, we're gonna be back for shorter episodes than what the Latina Connection usually has, which is an hour. We're gonna be doing this every other week. And the big announcement is that we're gonna be collaborating on a live workshop in Chicago. So I'm going to be in Chicago the last week of April. So I'm going to tell you right now to mark your calendars. April 23rd, location still to be determined. If you know a place, let me know. But we have it from 6 to 9 p.m. And we're still working out a lot of the details, but I just want you to put that date on your calendar, come out and be in community. Let's learn from each other. Let's support each other. We can get to where we're going a lot faster when we're all rowing in the same direction.
I'm so excited, Ruby. I'm so excited for you to come to Chicago. I'm so excited to give you un gran abrazo and to be able to, like you said, learn together, share together, see what we learn from folks that show up to our event, because it's not just us that are teaching. We are also here to learn from every single person that we encounter and share our lives with. So if you can make it, I am so excited to meet you in person as well, and also give you a hug. So here we are. Here we are, hugs on April, did we say 22nd?
April 23rd.
April 23rd. April 23rd.
April 23rd.
Ruby knows.
It's a Tuesday night. So we will see you there. We'll be back in 2 weeks, which is March 27th. Mm-hmm. If you have ideas for topics, drop those in the comments or DM Giovanna and I, and we will definitely bring the conversation to LinkedIn. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Bye.